Welcome everyone to this talk. Basically, I'm going to show you an experiment I did where I wanted to build the exactly same app using three different technologies and three different AI agents and compare them. So this is what this talk is about. But first of all, who am I? I'm Elaine. I work at Sphere, which is an agency in Paris, France. And for my career, I have worked in several Android and Flutter projects. I'm a GD for Flutter. And the idea for this talk came from another talk that I gave a lot of times. One thing that really interests me is how technologies work for mobile development, especially, of course, the top ones, native, React Native, Flutter, even web solutions. And just so you know, yes, I've been talking about this topic for a long time. And some takeaways from that presentation is that, of course, I go over how those technologies work, what's behind the scenes technically, but comparisons, a lot of comparisons exist, a lot of blog posts and so on, but it's nearly impossible to make a 100% fair comparison. This is one of the conclusions of the other talks. And there are a lot of technical stuff that exists, and they say, okay, this is going on behind the scenes, this is why this is something that may not work that well on React Native or on Flutter and so on. But a lot of those comparisons, they also went to the extreme. They wanted to showcase, I don't know, 100 animations showing at the same time and scrolling a view with 100 items and so on, and say, okay, you see, the screen is lagging. So a lot of them were just not realistic. They were not coming from real apps. And the challenge, and one of the things I said also on that talk is that to make a real comparison, we would need to make the exactly same app using the same level of expertise for each technology. And the problem is I cannot do it, even though I know Android and Flutter. Of course, my level is not exactly the same on those technologies, and I know almost nothing about React Native or web technologies in general, so I cannot do this. Maybe one person exists on the world that knows exactly the same, that has exactly the same level of expertise, and is willing to do the exactly same app a bunch of times and compare them to see which one performs the better and so on. But yeah, it's just not that realistic. Enter AI agents. I think most of you know by now AI agents. They're being more and more adopted by developers to perform a bunch of tasks, repetitive tasks, write unit tests, create documentation, create diagrams, and actually code entire features. And of course, here today, we're going to be using AI agents to build exactly the same app so we can compare. So the plan. First of all, what technologies? I had to, of course, not explore all of the possibilities that are out there, so I limited myself to the top ones today, which are native Android, Flutter, and React Native. And I'm going to be building Flutter and React Native only for Android to do the comparisons. Of course, they build for other platforms as well, but of course, I didn't have that much time to compare all of the possibilities, so I'm limiting myself to Android. And which agents, coding agents, so I'm going to be using Cloud Code, Gemini CLI, and Juni. So you can see at the end, 9 apps, 9 Android apps, and here are their project name. And the process. So I did some research to pick reference apps that were going to be used to write guidelines for each technology, for Android, for React Native, and for Flutter. And those guidelines were going to be given to the agent. So I was looking, I'm going to show you just after, on GitHub open source projects that looked good, that implemented good guidelines, clean architecture, organization, and so on. So those were the guidelines that were given. And then, of course, I had to build an app, so I had to write the requirements of the app. And then, so I gave those 2 documents each time for each version you're going to see, the guidelines, the requirements, and the exactly same initial prompt to the AI agent. These are the Android reference apps that I used, the 2 from Google and another one. All of them are looking good, implementing good stuff. Flutter for apps, one from the Flutter team and other ones showcasing clean architecture, design patterns, and so on. And React Native for projects as well. And then so basically, I check out all of those projects, and I asked Claude to write the guidelines saying, oh, this is the prompt, you're an expert, and I need some guidelines for this technology. You master this programming language, and then he wrote me the guidelines. But before we continue, just so you know, I did a lot of prompting, a lot of things. I created a lot of requirements, guidelines, and so on. I didn't do almost any prompt refining. I just one-shotted everything. I didn't look at the results in detail because that would take so much time for me to actually look, okay, is the output looking good? And to validate the documents that were going to be given to me. So I just relied on the examples that I gave. So you cannot see anything. Okay. These are the guidelines. Basically, what you need to know. I put the number of the lines that were given by Claude. Basically, there were documents, really extensive documents. For Android, it was 600 lines, React Native 700 lines, and for Flutter, it was massive 1,400 lines. So here, just I want to stay 1 minute to say that now I'm going to be concluding. I'm going to say again, when I make my conclusions, I'll say that again. This is something maybe that made my study flawed, because those are very, afterwards, I looked at the content and the tone, it's not the same between the guidelines. Like Flutter was more strict and React Native not that strict, but we'll talk about that later. And then the app, of course, this is not, the objective is not talking about the app, what it's doing. But really quickly, it is calling YouTube API. It has some Google sign-in, and it's displaying the data of the YouTube videos, and displaying location data on a map view, doing sorting, filtering, and local caching. So I split in 4 versions plus 1, which is the very first one. And the very first one, the V0, actually, I didn't rely on any agent because it was only configuration, setting up the project, initializing the Android Studio projects, GitHub, creating the project for Flutter React Native, setting up GitHub Actions, and Sona Cloud. I hooked up Sona Cloud as well to do some code scanning and some code coverage. So this is the very first version. So this is the empty Android app. I picked the empty one, the compose one, the one that you get when you do Flutter create, and the one that you get when you use the npx create expo. Yes, and as I said, I don't have that much experience in React Native, but I know that people that do React Native high-quality apps, they are using Expo, which is basically a framework above React Native. So I was doing Expo, and this is what their starter app looked like. Also, as I said, Sonar was also hooked up, and here I put the initial size of the APKs. All of the things that I'm going to say also, I built only release APKs, so those are all release APKs. But finally, let's see the agents work. So, as I say, the process is that I was giving guidelines, requirements, and giving exactly the same initial prompt. So, read requirements from this file and get guidelines from this file and implement it. Gave it to the AI agent. Very few times it did it in one shot, but otherwise there were some errors. Of course, I tested on a real device, and I adapted. I asked, oh no, this is wrong, or I have this error, and then I did it until the feature was done. What I consider a feature to be done, I didn't look at the UI, I didn't look at the UX. If there was a button that it was not good for like beautiful for me, it didn't matter. I only wanted things to work. And so basically, I had 12 vibe coding sessions. Each one, I vibe coded 3 apps at the same time. So, for example, Android version 1 with Claude, Android version 1 with Gemini, Android version 1 with Juni at the same time. And then the same for Flutter, the same for React Native. And then I changed. Maybe when I did the very first version with Android, for example, maybe I learned something. So I spent more time there learning. So I exchanged. If I started with Android here, the version 1, Android would be the last one here. And so I just switched the order to be fair to all technologies. And this is what my computer back at home looked like for a week, basically, because this took a week of my spare time. I had 1/3 of my screen for Claude, 1/3 for Gemini, 1/3 for Juni. Above, I had the agents, and below, I have a terminal only for compiling and installing on my test device. Okay, so this is the very first version, the login screen. So you can see Android, Flutter, React Native, Claude, Gemini, and Juni. Nothing much to say. It just is the login screen. Of course, there are some differences, but they all look okay. The account picker I censored because those are my real emails, but they all looked exactly the same except Gemini with Android. I forgot to research why I think it didn't use the exact, of course, you can see that it didn't use exactly the same process to do the logging, but it worked. A logged in screen saying some details or not. I didn't give any instructions, oh, you should write welcome, or you should write this or that. They just did it. Interesting to see that Claude chose red for logout. There was also some rules. I wanted to have some very basic rule, only authorizing some emails. So this is the error case when someone with an unauthorized email logs in. Looked good. Okay, so how much time to be done? So Flutter with Juni was the fastest one, 24 minutes. And React Native with Juni took me 1 hour, 45 minutes. But overall, you can see the times that it took here to build the login screen and the login process. Some things to note. The project Android Gemini, basically, it just stripped out. It deleted all of the configuration of Jacoco to calculate the code coverage in my Sonar config. Just decided to delete. I said I did Google sign-in, so there was some Firebase config that I did manually. And when I wrote, because I wrote actually the prompt to write the requirements, I simply forgot to say that you needed to also log out, not only log in. So I had to, so it wasn't on the requirements, so I had to ask each agent, okay, and now implement a logout function. And with React Native, you can see the highest numbers are here because you saw the template. Where is it here? You know, it has 2 tabs. It is kind of complicated. And when I asked to build the login screen, it tried to keep it or to integrate another screen, and it got really confusing really fast. So I really struggled to come from that version to the version 1, basically, that was working. Okay, version 1. Version 2, basically calling the API and displaying the data in a list. They all look good. Of course, some are showing the thumbnail bigger or whatever, but they all are looking pretty much the same here with some differences. This one a lot faster. One thing that I didn't check in retrospect, I should have. You can see that the logout button is here for this, is here for a lot of versions, but I'm almost sure some apps actually just deleted the logout button when I did the list. I completely underestimated the usage of the YouTube API because I was doing so much in so little time. Actually, the quota, it is 10,000 requests per day. And I was seeing some errors. There were maybe sometimes there were no logs, there were no details. And then I figured out, okay, maybe it's my quota. And yes, it wasn't 100%. So I had, by the end of the project, I had to create 3 API keys and juggle between those to actually finish. Flutter Juni did it in one shot. I think there's maybe one or more, 2 more examples where I give the guidelines, the requirements, just did it. So 6 minutes to do the feature. And you can see Flutter with Gemini took the longest because I had also the requirement to say, okay, I have this API key. This API key should not be committed to GitHub, so keep it safe. Do some kind of configuration file or whatever, and keep it safe. I had issues doing that, and also I had some crashes or errors, doesn't matter. And I will basically I would copy and paste to the agent, and it was trying to fix stuff on iOS. It didn't understand that it was Android. I said, no, even me, because I was doing 3 things at the same time, I didn't even see that it was trying to fix iOS stuff. I wasn't even testing on iOS. V3. Local caching, I actually didn't. I didn't plan to do local caching, but because of the usage that was so high, I did some. I asked for local caching, filtering, sorting, and having more data. Here we can really start to see, even though I'm not judging, I'm just observing that overall Claude, with this symbol right here, the Claude symbol, is doing what I think the most advanced UI without me asking for anything in particular. You know, I just say, okay, code this feature, show this data, and so on. It is even doing, you know, the tags. It is showing in a nice way. These things right here, it scrolls. For React Native, it shows a little thing here to say the location, and so on. And on the other hand, Gemini and Juni, right here you see all the text has the same style. I mean, the information is there, but I would never put one app like this into production. But again, what is important here is that everything works. And also filtering, a lot of different approaches here too. With Android, Flutter, and React Native being maybe the most different. Sometimes whole screen, sometimes only a dialog, sometimes stuff that is integrated directly on the list. And sorting as well, a lot of different approaches similar to filtering. So, time to, the UXs, as I said, I was not evaluating at all, but they were really different because I saw sometimes there were dialogues, sometimes it was inside the UI and so on. So the UX completely different for the filtering and sorting. So something happened with Android Gemini at this step. You can see, even though it took 50 minutes and the other ones 41 and 56, Android Gemini decided to do a dependency injection with Hilt. Up until the V3, it was fine. But then it ran into some problems with Hilt and KSP. It was trying to solve it. a lot, really hard. And I was really sad for it because the agent was saying, I've exhausted all my options. I tried this, this, and this. Could you try to restart, invalidate your cache and restart the ID, clean the build, check your configuration? I did it. It still didn't work. So what I did then was I was like, okay, I'm not, yes, I didn't say, I didn't interfere at all, technically, with anything that you're seeing here, except basic configuration, Firebase, and so on. And so I said, oh, do you have any alternatives to the things that are disposing the problems? And Gemini said, oh, great idea. I have this possibility too. I can implement Hilt, but this means I have to migrate from, sorry, a coin. I need to migrate from Hilt to coin. This is a serious migration and so on. Are you sure you want me to proceed? And I said, yes. And it took 20 minutes. It failed a lot of builds, but at the end, it worked. And then, yes, there was one project that, of course, from version to version, a lot of files changed directories, they were renamed and so on. And during one refactor or whatever, the Flutter Gemini, I launched the apps and I saw completely different data. And one project decided to completely change the channel IDs from the YouTube videos. And as I said, the V4 will be the version where I put in a map the location data from the videos. In order to do that, I learned that you need to do, in case you're dealing with data that's coming from YouTube, you do something that is called reverse geocoding. So I just learned that too. So V4. V4 is the map view. So basically, here's how you get to the map. So a button here on the Android versions, view map, and map. And a Flutter action button, floating action button, and something that is completely invisible for you, but I swear there is a text here I can show you. The contrast is awful. It is because this is like light purple, and there is a white text here that says view map. Believe me, I can show you later. Should I have accepted this? I saw it. I saw that it was not perfect. I clicked the button, it worked. Of course, maybe for another version I could correct it, but it was working. This was important to me. And then React Native, view map, okay. And then the map view. Oh, and maybe I wrote, but I didn't say. I asked for, on the requirements file, for OpenStreetMaps and not Google Maps. So these are OpenStreetMaps maps, and with the markers from the locations. And then, of course, I specified when I click on a marker, you show a bottom sheet on some side. I said on the bottom of the screen, you show some card with informations. And I accepted this one. I don't know why Claude for Android put it on the top, but it did. It worked. And again, wouldn't put it in production, but it worked. This was the very end of the project for me. The V4. So it was 1 week of intense vibe coding every day. And I was running out of credits with Juni because, yes, I don't know how many credits I have, but when I was doing the very last session, the 12th session, there was a little thing that showed me, okay, you only have 9% of your credits are remaining. Okay, I cannot screw this, so I was kind of stressed. And it was the React Native one. The very last one, it was this one, where I struggled a lot because it was just not working. It tried to use, okay, it tried to use the official, the plugin that's really working, React Native Maps, something like this. But it's trying really hard to do Google Maps. And I said, no, you should do OpenStreetMaps. And then, oh, okay, I'll do OpenStreetMaps. And then I run it, and all three agents, they crash because of missing a Google API key. No, and then again and again and again. And I was like, okay, I'm going to run out of credits until Claude found a solution. And he said, okay, so I'll just put a web view. It worked. And so I told the other agents to implement the web view. It worked. And Android Claude did it in one shot. 7 minutes. I was really so impressed because, I mean, I don't know how many people here have implemented maps. I have before. And generally, it takes much more time than you expect. And it just one-shotted. Oh, it was amazing. I was really happy with Android and Claude. OK, so summary. Basically, the fastest app to build was Flutter with Juni, 1 hour 20. Slowest React Native with Juni, almost 4 hours. And I did average for technologies and agents. So basically, the fastest agent was Claude Code with 2 hours on average. Slowest Gemini, the fastest technology Flutter, but Android is almost the same. And the slowest React Native. OK, so I finished the project now. Time to profile the app. So I put this on an Android manifest to profile. And I used the profiler in Android Studio to profile the apps. And I don't think anybody here is going to be shocked. But the RAM usage for Android native, while the app is idle on the list view and on the map view, we're going to only be seeing the averages here. For Android native, it was the lowest usage of RAM, then Flutter, and then React Native. I didn't say that before, even with the APK sizes, you saw 12, 14, 80. The thing is, with React Native and Flutter, of course, you have to put some stuff inside the APK to make those technologies work. So for React Native, you need the JavaScript runtime and the React Native framework. For Flutter, you need the Dart VM and the Flutter framework. Of course, you're adding stuff. So I think it's almost impossible at the end to have smaller APKs or better RAM usage than native apps. So this is just confirming this, and same for the map. So what I did also is that I tried to really spam the app and consume as much RAM as I could for the list and for the map. And again, Android performed better. For CPU, though, I looked at the maximum CPU when I was spamming the UI, what numbers I could get. I didn't put anything in green or red here because if for the RAM we can really see that Android native performed the best, I think here the results are more or less the same. Still, Android is having better results for the list, 11, 12, 14 here. And for the map, we could even say that for some reason, Android was having highest CPU spikes. Again, this is a max value. This is what I could get. This is not like, of course, if I was doing a very serious study, I would have to do it for long periods of time, do several tests, do averages, but this is only so you can get an idea of numbers you can get. For folks that never profiled an app before, this is what it looks like. Thought it was interesting to show to you. This is when I was on the map view, when I was really doing a lot of gestures and trying to really make the RAM allocate memory. This one here on the top is for Android. So you can see, even though I was going really fast, it was allocating and deallocating as really quickly. Here on the bottom is for React Native. So slowly, always going up, going down sometimes. And then Flutter is a little bit in the middle, going up, but some spikes as well. But I thought it was really cool also to see that Flutter, basically, almost all the memory that is allocated is for graphics. And then here for React Native, it is the less for graphics, but in comparison with Flutter, a lot of more gray and green. So this one for others, so I suppose React Native stuff, and this one for green for code. Sonar, really quickly. I need to better set up, I think, my projects because I wanted to compare also the version 0 and the version 4. There were almost no difference. Well, on the score, there are almost no differences. There were some more code smells and so on. But basically, this is for Android, this is for Claude, and this is for React Native. Basically, what happened is that code coverage that was at some level in version 0, it only went down. Even though on my very first prompt, I said, no, you really care about unit tests and so on. I think it didn't do any unit test, any version of any technology using any agent. And also duplications, some code duplications here. Sorry. Here on Android Juni. Oh, sorry. And here too, Flutter Claude and Flutter Juni. APK sizes at the end. So at the beginning, 18 sorry for Android, 89 for React Native, 41 megabytes for Flutter. So here are the final APK sizes for all the apps. The sizes themselves don't matter a lot. I think what really interesting is how much did they grow. Interesting to see React Native, 3% for all of the versions. Basically, I think because the very first version, that it's only the template from Expo. My supposition is that it contained basically everything that this app needed. So there's only 3% increase there. For Flutter, 20% increase over more or less. And interesting to see the difference from Gemini and Juni. 60 and something percent for Gemini and Juni, and 19% for Claude. So, last but not least, so I have 9 projects, and what I wanted to do was for the 3 agents to evaluate all of the projects. I asked Claude evaluate those 9 projects, Gemini evaluate those 9 projects, and Juni evaluate those 9 projects. But the problem is I ran out of Juni credits. I didn't say at the end. I had 1%, I think, of my quota. It was like, okay, I don't have enough to make the evaluation. So I only did with Claude and Gemini. And then I did 2 evaluations. The very first one, basic technical evaluation, say, okay, evaluate code organization, code architecture, maintainability, blah, 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 so on and so forth. And here are the results. This is what Claude thought of the project. And then I said, okay, so you make rankings, make points, and do and show your results. So the best one was actually Flutter Claude, 87%, and Android Gemini, 79%. The worst, React Native Juni, 44%. Really interesting, though, to see the outcomes. For the Flutter projects, the winner, Flutter Claude, advanced architecture. A lot of gap on the Flutter projects between Claude and the others. Android projects, Android Gemini, Coin, because it did the migration from Hilt. And yes, all of them, solid understanding of platform guidelines, cool. React Native Claude also won, and generally lower scores due to less sophisticated architecture. And some key sites. All of this is, oh no, not the evaluations though. I can publish them if you want to read them afterwards. And overall, yes, it says that yeah, Flutter Cloud stands out, highest quality implementation across all technologies. Juni didn't do that good. This is Claude, but what evaluating. But what I think is interesting to see is that in general, it provides better documentation than their technical implementations would suggest. So maybe best for documentation, I guess. This is Gemini's evaluation. So Flutter Cloud also on the top one, then Flutter Gemini, then Android Gemini, and so on. Summary findings, Flutter projects, generally highest qualities. strong understanding of modern app architecture and best practices. Android projects, mixed bag. Android Gemini, Android Claude, well-architectured, but lacked documentation and tests. Android Uni had documentation, but let down by an outdated networking layer. It was doing, you know, the old thing, HTTP requests directly. React Native, the most inconsistent. Decent projects with some architectural flaws, while React Native Gemini was a god component that needs a complete refactor. Oh, damn. But overall, it said, because it was true, all projects, they lacked completely tests. There was no testing. Critical, they will need to be addressed in real-world scenario. OK. And second most common weakness, poor documentation. Cool. So this was the first evaluation, only technical, code architecture, and so on. And the second one, how well did those projects respect the requirements I gave them and the guidelines I gave them? So basically, I said, for those projects, I gave those guidelines. Here are the requirements for version 1, version 2, version 3, version 4. How well did those projects respect them? Here are the results. I'm not going to get into detail, but here is the summary of the results with averages. So this slide is to show you that the agent that had the best score was Claude, and the technology that had the best score was Flutter, but Android was almost there. And here is the final ranking. Flutter with Claude with 91, then Android with Gemini with 83, Android Claude. And what I really find interesting is that Juni is almost the three last ones, Android with Juni, React Native with Juni, Flutter with Juni. They're very, very low scored, maybe because Juni didn't evaluate the project, I don't know. I'll have to see. Next month, I'll have my credits back, I'll do it. OK, next steps. As I said at the very beginning, I didn't look at the guidelines that were given for each technology. I would redo the experiment, but making sure the requirements are at the same level. They have, especially they have the same tone. Like say, oh, you must put this kind of file in this directory. You must, instead of should. And also better use of agents guidelines. Each agent have their own thing to make them work better. Maybe replace Juni with another one. I'll try to make the score, I'll do the evaluation with Juni, but I would love to make something that runs locally. Go further on profiling. I said I gave some metrics, but I think we can go further. There's a bunch of variants that we can do with the study, focus on accessibility, UI, UX tests. And also, as I said, I should have set up better my Sonar projects. Measure loading times, because the React Native apps, they were ultra slow. I mean, the loading screen, it took forever to show the list and the map. And for that, actually, I wanted to use, I integrated Firebase performance monitoring, because you know, when you just integrate Firebase performance monitoring, it starts getting measures for you that can be interesting, such as the app start time, which is super interesting. Maybe I did it too late in the project, so my numbers are just getting in. But I don't have anything useful to show you today. And some final words. It was really, really intense to do this on my spare time during a week, but it was really fun. I learned a lot. If you have any suggestions, criticism, ideas about anything I showed you, please do. And I thought, while I was doing this, I thought about a lot about our role as developers using those tools. So if you want to chat about it, I'll be happy to do that with you. And even though it's not perfect, I think it was really cool seeing the exact same app built with all of these technologies and comparing them. And everything is on, all the projects are there on my GitHub account if you want to take a look at them. Thank you.